From CNN, Supreme Court upholds Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for trans youths. This is what J.D. Vance was talking about when he got banned temporarily from Blue Sky.
That's insane.
They say the 6-3 decision by a conservative majority is a major blow to the transgender community and its advocates at a critical time. Since 2020, Republican-led states around the country have passed a wave of laws regulating the lives of trans Americans with a particular focus on minors. And President Trump, who ran for re-election in part by ending the transgender lunacy, has taken several steps intended to roll back gains made by that community. So they say roughly half the states have similar bans. I believe this is the first step. Maybe not the first, but we are very close to a nationwide ban. I think it's entirely possible that the Supreme Court could ban it outright. No more mutilation of children.
I like that. The idea that we have to continue to make believe that this is possible while they're literally ruining the lives of children is insane. There is no such thing as a trans child. I don't care what anyone says. This is absolute insanity, and the Supreme Court got this right. The fact that there were 3 justices that were on the wrong side of this shows how useless they are as justices. Yeah, that's about all I got on this.
So in this context, I want to explain to you what transgender is while stepping out of the political space. I'd like to pull this up here. This is r/reality shifting. Serge just said, oh no. Reality shifting is a community of people online who believe they have the ability to transport their consciousness into an alternate reality. The things they believe get dangerous. In one of the posts on Reddit, they say, when you die in your current reality, don't worry. You don't die. Your consciousness will just shift to another reality.
The TikToks on this are crazy.
And they're going massively viral. So reality shifting TikToks are where they're more viral, of course.
Yep.
And you may be saying, well, what does that have to do with transgender? Let me explain. Obviously, you know, nobody can transport their consciousness to another reality. Maybe if we first discover that parallel realities exist through science and then build a machine where you can literally do it, maybe that's possible. But the idea that you can lock yourself in a closet, close your eyes and go, it's going to send you to a faraway universe, that's called imagination, not reality shifting. So what happens is 15-year-olds go online. They hate their life. They hate school. They're going through puberty. They're awkward, whatever it may be, depressed, angry. And they say, why does my life suck? Well, guess what? Someone's got the answer for you. Mm-hmm. And it is that you're in the wrong reality. Did you know this? You are trapped in the wrong reality. You need only close your eyes and focus and believe the things we tell you, and you can shift into the correct reality. Your trans reality, unfortunately. Yeah. That's right. Now, this sounds insane, and we can tell it's insane. The gender thing is no different. The only problem, liberals have adopted it as if it were true.
Yep.
We are only a few years away from stuff like this being entered into legislation where you end up with CNN saying President Vance is opposed to reality shifters and reality shifting care. We are years away, if this is the trend, where doctors providing reality shifting care will bring you to a hospital bed and put you in an induced coma so you can transport to your desired reality, like in the show The OA.
Canada will do this for you.
Yeah, they'll just kill you.
Yes.
Can't.
Made.
So this is actually,
Raid.
this is the premise of The OA, right? Like you die and then you transport to an alternate reality. And so people think, and this is literally a TV show that children think are real, think is real. And there's even talk of self-harm in this because it transports you to another reality. The way they describe it is psychotic. They say things like, when you close your eyes, you can temporarily enter first you go into the void state where you're in blackness, and then you'll emerge in a desired reality only temporarily as a dream walker.
You be lying.
Unless you die. That's what they think. Now, again, the point is, trans is the same. A teenager who's awkward, who feels depressed, is weird, goes on the internet and they say, maybe you're a girl. And the little boy's like, what is that? And like, transgender. Look, What we learned from, we had Helena Kirshner on the show. She said what happened was she goes on, I think it was Tumblr, and she was angsty and depressed, and someone commented, maybe it's because you're trans, just abruptly for no reason. And she was like, what is that? They explained it to her. And they said, look, don't take my word for it. Why don't you just like put on some boyish clothes right now? No big deal. Take a picture and see how you feel. So she went, okay. And she put on jeans and a t-shirt, took a picture, posted it. And they said, you look so cool. Wow. That is the coolest thing ever. You're amazing. So beautiful. Now, how do you feel? And she went, I feel really good. Because they were love bombing her.
Right.
And then said, see, it's because you're trans. Why don't you cut your hair short? See how you feel then. She goes, okay. Cuts her hair short. Posts a picture.
Oh, you look so good.
You're so, oh man, you're beautiful. You're amazing. We love you. And she goes, wow. And they go, how do you feel now? She goes, I feel really good. They're like, yep, you're trans. That's proof. She said she went to Planned Parenthood. In 15 minutes, they gave her the maximum dose of testosterone. Yep. This is where society is going. Best of luck. This is why I was saying, Miss Rachel and Coco Melon, it's other kid stuff on the internet is no different. It's the same detached from reality psychobabble garbage. And kids are going to attach their brains to it, and they're not going to function properly.
Yeah, and not only that, like when it comes to at least Miss Rachel, like she started jumping into politics as well, and it's bad enough that it's not really all that nourishing content for kids in the first place, but then to be shoving into it political opinions for whatever toddlers or something, yeah, no thanks. I don't want my kid watching that stuff.
I want to say a few things, but I don't because I have friends who have transgender.
Not anymore. You don't. Not anymore.
No.
You don't. Not after tonight.
That's it. No, but it's. How can I say this without insulting? I mean, there's no way I can not insult them, but it really amazed me, and I still don't understand it. How anybody my age, I just doesn't believe any of this stuff. Let's see, the vast majority don't believe, and yet they do. Like I have friends who have supported their children in this. I'm talking about children who are over the age of 18, and they clearly were uncomfortable with it, but felt that they had to go along with it.
There's a conflation.
The thing is that because I originally, what am I trying to say? I originally thought they were just going along with the ideology to be accepted and not to go against the grain. But when your own children are mutilated or their lives are ruined over this and you support it, it shows that somehow it's more than just going along with the crowd. And
it's your fault.
They have actually assimilated it.
So I have a question. If someone was suffering from suicidal ideation because they were suffering from what we would call dimensional displacement, what's the treatment for it?
Yeah, psychiatric treatment, drugs.
Yeah, we depending on the severity of their threats of self-harm, we lock them up.
Yeah.
So when a kid claims they're in the wrong body and they need to be altered because they're actually a koala bear, do we give them surgery to make them a koala bear?
No.
There's no difference on race or gender. When a person who is a 6'3" white man who weighs 220 and goes, I am a woman, it's like, that's no difference than saying you're a raccoon or you're suffering from dimensional displacement. It is not a fact. It is not a reality. And the issue is we have created a medical treatment, the only DSM-5, as far as I know, that affirmation is the treatment.
Yeah.
If you pica is my favorite example. DSM-5 pica. You know what pica is?
No.
It's when you eat things that aren't food.
How'd you know I didn't know that?
Pica?
Yeah,
I didn't.
It's the only time you've asked me, do I know? And I didn't know. Did my face show it, or you just sensed?
The assumption is that most people have not heard of the term pica.
Okay. What is a pica?
Pica is when you eat things that aren't food. Some people eat hair. Some people eat pennies.
Nails.
Nails.
Yeah.
Yep. And really messed up stuff. Should we affirm them? Well, I can see you're eating rocks again. Well, I don't want you to feel depressed or upset. You got to eat the rocks.
There isn't a pica lobby.
Right. Yeah.
That's the problem. The other thing that I think it is when it comes to parents is that society now, because think of your Facebook mom groups in the way that everybody is now kind of viewed. The idea is like everybody's running for president all the time. You have to be perfect all the time. You don't get to employ your own methods for parenting without being under the scrutiny of everybody else, not just in your friends group, but whoever may interact with your kids down the line. And somewhere along the line,
I took for the Johnny Walker and the baby.
Yeah.
That was...
But the idea is that what used to be considered, unconditional love became unconditional acceptance, and gone are the days where you could love a child but not necessarily approve of everything they do, and that was enough. Right now, if you're a parent and you don't unconditionally support everything your kids do, you will be viewed as a bad parent, not doing your jobs, and you will be ostracized. And that, I think women especially will fall victim to this with the Facebook mom groups and the need for women to be part of social, the social cohesion and the way that they interact with one another enforces a certain level of conformity amongst all of them. And that's where a lot of this starts, is that you aren't allowed to be your own autonomous parent anymore without having to worry about the judgment and sometimes the intervention of people, of the state and people who might get the state involved.
That's the thing that I'm most scared about becoming a dad is like the idea of like me wanting to do something with my kid or not wanting my kid to see something or whatever, and then having to deal with the state.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I want.
Well, I'm not. It's not so much the state right now. It's insurance companies.
Oh, okay.
Insurance companies are one of the biggest threats to human civilization, and I think people need to understand that. Depending on the medical treatments your child will get, you will be cut off from hospitals and doctors. Yep. There are certain things where they're like, here's some medication we want to give to your child, and you say, but my child's not sick. And they go, if you don't get it, you will be blacklisted from every medical provider because they're insurance company.
I feel like the left and the right can come to, like, maybe not everybody agrees that we should have universal health care, but we can all agree that insurance companies are pretty much evil. As much as
we can agree to that stuff. But that doesn't mean just because we agree to that stuff doesn't mean that we're going to have the same prescriptions of how to deal with it or what should be done about it.
The issue isn't the people. The issue is humans in general. It's a system.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that everybody's going to agree on what the solution is, and God knows that getting the government involved rarely helps anything because it doesn't help anything ever. But to look at what's going on right now with insurance companies and pretend like that isn't a problem is also ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should make a dimensionally displaced lobby.
We could
dimensionally displaced.
Like, you know what we could do? We could hire Alex Stein to go to like
dimensional displacement.
Yeah. Like, we can hire Alex Stein to go lobby for
these kids are depressed because they're actually supposed to be popular and beloved. And the reason they're not is because they're temporarily in the wrong dimension. And if they were given the proper treatment, induced coma, they could reality shift into the dimension where they're popular and everyone loves them.
There was never an Otherkin lobby. There could have been an Otherkin lobby.
Ooh, I don't want anything to do with Otherkins.
But are you talking about the more reasonable of the, and that's a stretch.
Yes.
Way,
I was going to say,
original.
What are you talking about?
Well, because there's the people who think they're dragons and the people who think they're monkeys.
And werewolves.
Yeah, and it's like, so Otherkin, it was a big trend. It still kind of is. And it's effectively trans species. The only
you're gonna laugh, but it's crazy.
There are people who walk around with fake cat ears and tails in their pants. Yep. They believe they're animals. This is not furries, by the way.
Not the same thing.
Yeah, not the same thing. And there have been people who have surgically altered themselves to be animals. Are we going to start providing them with species affirming care?
Nope.
Well, you guys remember the transgender, trans species tiger woman, right?
Yeah.
An adult human man got surgeries to look like a tiger, split his lip, got metal plates put in for whiskers, pointed the ears, shaved the teeth down, and then got a sex change to be a female tiger, and then committed suicide.
Whoa. Good grief.
That came to an abrupt end.
Yeah.
And guess what? I think it's fair to say the reason why suicide rates are high among trans people is because of the treatment.
Yeah.
And so what we find is the science shows
I say as if I know what I'm talking about, but it makes
So
sense.
here's the issue. Desistance that means that a person who is trans simply stops being trans, called desist. Trans children who are suffering from or diagnosed with gender dysphoria, have a desistance rate of like 65 to 90%. So that means if your 10-year-old is suffering from dysphoria, do nothing. By the time they're 13, they'll be like, I don't even remember what that was. The problem is they're now trying to do gender-affirming care on these kids and give them drugs and surgeries.
Reinforces it.
What happens? It locks them in, reinforces it, and then they end up suffering extremely high suicidality because of the treatments.
When I was a boy, I grew up in Indiana, and I had I used to get sick from nerves. If I had a test or a baseball game or something, I'd wouldn't be able to go to the bathroom and so on. They sent me to the hospital for a week of tests, and then decided that it was all in my head. And then my mother took me to the doctor, and the doctor sat me down and said, "It's all in your head, and you have to learn to get over it." And I think it's one of the greatest things that ever happened to me.
See,
Now they would give you a medication.
No, that's the whole thing. If
No,
I
now
grew
they'd
up,
be like, "You're a
if I grew
girl,
up now,
let's cut his balls off."
they would. If I grew up today, I would have been severely medicated or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, either that or your parents would have lost you. Like they'd have come and taken you away from your parents. You know,
Yeah.
if you didn't do the things that the state said they should, which is.
And remember, the when the left reinforces all of the things that we've just discussed, they're doing so with a lawn sign by their home that says "Science is real."
Yeah, they are.
By the way, I have an uncle, my aunt's husband, who has out of body experiences, and he's a scientist, and he's now retired scientist, and he wrote a book about it, and it has in that community, it has a kind of a special status because he's a scientist.
So, like
So
lucid dreaming.
He says no. He said he actually leaves his body, and then he has like a golden umbilical cord, and that allows him, that connects you back to your physical body, and then over time you can work with it and you become better. You can go further distances and everything. At first, it's very hard to learn how to navigate, but you get better over time.
You
Joe
don't
Rogan
say.
would love to have him on.
I was gonna say it sounds like Joe Rogan
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know that I have all that much valuable input on like golden umbilical cords and stuff.
I'll have to do my research.
Right? You know, to the astral plane and stuff. If Ian were here, he
Ian would definitely be able to give us some
He'd have a
information on astral projection.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have anything for it though.
That's my contribution for the evening.
I feel like we've like just dumped a bunch of like social ills on you tonight. Like, here's all these things that are crazy in the world. Enjoy.
It's crazy. There's like this viral video where a young boy is getting injected with puberty blockers by his dad.
It's so crazy.
It's just like, look, the UK is conquered for their own reasons. The US, I think, is largely conquered, but maybe turning things around under Trump. We'll see if Trump can actually pull it off. But that's the issue with, say, like the big, beautiful bill. I talked to Rand Paul today. He said if he is the deciding vote, he will vote yes. And I'm like, that's good, because the crisis we're facing right now goes well beyond whether there will be inflation. Like, we're going to overspend, the debt will go up, and inflation's going to happen. It's like, yeah, they're also sterilizing children, you know, among other things.
It's weird because like when everything was going on, it feels like that was 9 crises ago when everyone was discussing the different things that were in that bill. But maybe it's just me, but I never thought of Trump as fiscally prudent at all.
No,
like
he's not.
he wasn't in his first term. Like, that's not to say that that's good. It's just it wasn't something that I was expecting. I was gonna wear the shirt that I got of Bill Clinton's. Like, when was the last time we had a balanced budget? Like
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton. But it's just I never thought of Trump as the dude who was going to come in for fiscal responsibility, because for the most part, whoever's going to get elected is going to. It's not a good thing, but the deficit's going to get worse. And I don't know if there is a candidate that is electable that is actually going to be able to take a dent out of it.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of sounding like
The Borg will win out.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of sounding like a mouthpiece for the administration, like, he never like he was never a fiscal conservative. Like he was everybody that was pro-Trump knew that he was very well that he was a Democrat, and
He likes the unions.
yeah, he does.
That's the mindset, I think.
He's like, I can work with him, you know.
Yeah.
I think part of it might be because like the first thing that he seemed to go into doing when he took office was the Doge cuts, so it became kind of it became more of a discussion about fiscal responsibility for the government, and I was just like, when does the spending start? Because I know the spending is going to start.
Yeah, I mean the spending's definitely starting now. You know, I assume it's because they need the funding to continue to, like, for the government to function. But that's the same thing you hear every year.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what year it is. It's always the same refrain. Well, we have to do this to keep the government open and blah, blah, blah. And in this particular issue, there's like, well, you know, we need to go ahead and pass this funding bill so that way we can keep doing stuff with the border and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like they're just referencing things that the American people are generally happy with. And they're saying, well, we need the money to keep doing these things that you like. So it's nothing new, and nobody's surprised at all.
I guess I didn't expect anything except for maybe some tax cuts might happen, or like they have to ratify the 2017 tax cuts again.
That's important, you know.
That was the only thing I thought was going to happen this entire cycle of presidency.
Well, that's what this bill is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're probably right. It probably will be the only thing that happens. I mean, I could conceive of possibly getting some of the Doge cuts. Getting something passed with the Doge cuts, but I don't know what the House and the Senate schedules are like, so I don't know for sure if they have time because their schedule is so crazy. So I mean, I could conceive of it because I could imagine that there are Republicans that would be like, yeah, let's do this, and that I could see it getting passed, but I don't know if they're actually going to do anything. And to be honest with you, that should come as no surprise.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.